I sure hope this darn thing works properly. Well, let's give it a shot. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, it's that time again. Time for Professor Victor Singingeagle's brilliant lectures here at Sisseton, Wahpeton College in beautiful downtown Agency Village, South Dakota. This is Native American Literature, Meeting 17, Part 3 of 3. For Thursday, April 3rd, 2025, and without any further ado, the man himself, the brilliant Professor Victor Singingeagle! Yay! Right on. Okay, now I gotta quit messing around so much as I am wont to do, and pull up one of my other heroes, Geary Hobson, who is Cherokee Quapaw. And some more discussion of natives and anthropology. As you know, we were talking about feminist anthropology, Sherry Ortner, versus feminist native writer, Polygon Allen, my late hero, who is now laughing at me from heaven, or the Milky Way, if we want to say it in native terms. She's walking on the Milky Way, looking down and saying, ha ha ha, Singingeagle, you're nuts. Never mind, let's focus, shall we? So, there is this interplay with natives and anthropologists, is there not? So what happens a lot of times is that we natives, we hear all these stories by cultural anthropologists being told about us, and we get annoyed. And some of us go out and get our own PhDs in anthropology. And we're going to look at this in a minute. I'm harping on this for a reason, because a lot of anthropologists, as we've seen, feminist anthropologists define culture as this idea, all the thoughts and human practice and the tools and everything, institutions that we create to assert our dominance and control over nature. That is problematic in its own right, because a lot of us natives have a totally different definition of culture, do we not? In my own family, for example, the runaway band of Potawatomi Indians, we would define culture as all acts and material and institutions that we create and rituals to establish a harmonious relationship with nature, as opposed to dominating the earth. What do we do to establish a connection and brotherhood and kinship, as Daniel Heath Justice says, with nature and our fellow living beings? So I want to pick it up now with Geary Hobson. And I'm going to mess with you. I'm going to go over here for a second. Already talked for 3 minutes and 29 seconds. Bad boy. So go back to our e-learning, and you'll see that I have Geary Hobson here right under Pop Quiz B with our handsome Will Smith. Get your wife's name out of... Never mind, I'm not going to say that. Right here where it says Geary Hobson, click on that. Open link in new tab. It's probably going to pull up his video. No, I don't want to watch a commercial. Leave me alone. So I'm going to shrink this down. I'm going to show you this is Google, which works better sometimes because I have ad blocker on it. Never mind. Focus. Geary Hobson is also, he has a problem with the etic perspective on natives and the cultural definitions and the anthropological definitions. This dude, by the way, is a native anthropologist. Remember what I just said. A lot of us Indians got sick of non-Indian anthropologists coming in and looking at our cultures like with a microscope or a magnifying glass. Oh, look at those savages. Ugh. So we said, screw you guys, we're going to get our own PhDs. We're going to study from an emic perspective. Now, this dude is Geary Hobson. He doesn't even look like a native. That's kind of what he's getting at in his works. A lot of his poetry, a lot of his stories But if you ever listen to him talk, you ever meet him and chat with him, man, the guy is like Mr. Super Indian. This is the book, The Last of the Ophos. It's one of his many books that he's written, but this is one of the famous ones. And we're going to spend a little time discussing his problem getting this book together. Here we go. So, this is on our lesson plan, Geary Hobson, Cherokee Quapaw. I got to pull this up. I didn't put my old man glasses on today, so bear with me. The Last of the Ophos. This is what the interview was about as well, with Dr. Joshua Nelson, Assistant Professor, Department of English. I think he's already gone emeritus, unlike me. I'm still working my butt off, but never mind. We're going to stay focused. All right. Last of the Ophos. Geary Hobson, as you know, is a Marine veteran. I believe his father was also a veteran of the U.S. Army, if I remember right. And he spent a lot of time with his dad growing up and learning how to respect Mother Earth and his fellow living creatures. And he used to go hunting with his father and his brother all the time. And his father used to take him down south a lot. And he oftentimes spent some seasons down in Louisiana. And while he was there, he kind of got interested in this group of people called the Ophos, O-F-O-S. And they were pretty much dying out, you see. This is a small tribe of natives, and they're dying out because the newcomers came and they brought all their diseases and their guns and stuff, and they were killing off the Indians. So nowadays, they have been lumped together, which often happens with native peoples. They'll get squished together because their numbers are dwindling so much that you get squished in with another tribe. So in this case, the Ophos are now lumped together with the Tunica and Biloxi nations down there in Louisiana. Now, so Geary Hobson has a bunch of collections of small short stories and blurbs here and there, and he was chatting with Linda Hogan, who is a Chickasaw. I'm going to pull up the notes so you can see what I'm talking about as far as you can follow along. There it is right there. Last of the Ophos, Tunica, Biloxi. So, Geary Hobson has been writing this stuff, and Linda Hogan says to him, why don't you put it all together and put it in a book? And that's where he came up with Last of the Ophos. So he submitted it to his publisher, and the publisher says, your book's a little too thin, you see. It's too short. And instead of making it about Louisiana Indians, this weird Opho tribe I never heard of, why don't you put them on the plains and have them hunting buffalo? And Geary Hobson got annoyed and he said, give me back my book. Give me back my manuscript. He said, fine, I'll take it to another publisher. And that's what he did. That's kind of what he's discussing in this video here. These two are talking about that. So he's a little bit irritated. The themes of this book are also themes that are echo in many native lives, which is this ideas of alienation, assimilation, and loneliness. But he argues that Indians are everywhere, and we shouldn't just focus on the war paint and the feathers and the bows and arrows and hunting buffalo. There's lots of different kinds of Indians, is what he's trying to say. Indians are everywhere. His buddy and my old buddy, Simon J. Ortiz, who's Acoma, also says the same thing in his poetry. This guy's a poet. And he's arguing in his books and his writing that Indians are living, breathing human beings that are still around today. And we're not just on the plains and we're not just in the past. So we shouldn't, you oftentimes will hear anthropologists speak of Indians in the past tense. Oh yeah, Potawatomi, they lived over here and they ate this and they had this house and they did this and they wore this, but they don't talk about Indians today, do they? So that's the job of us native writers. That's what I'm getting at. Oh man. So he also discusses, as does Daniel Heath Justice and the fellow from Canada, his name I can't remember, the comedian writer, this idea that he doesn't really look native. Um, there's this thing going on. You see that the natives don't always live up to our stereotypes. I mean, look at me. I don't look like a pure native a little bit. I could pass for Mexican when I was growing up. Um, why do I always talk about me, I? Let's just say a fellow named Riley. Riley grew up and started off in Los Angeles. All the other kids thought he was Mexican. Sometimes they thought he was black. Sometimes they thought he was a skinny runt Samoan. His brother, they thought he was Japanese. So yeah, you have these stories. We are the invisible minority. This is a lot of times you'll hear native writers talk about the fact that the non-natives, they always think in two terms. It's either black or it's white. It's either this way or it's that way. Either or-ism is what my grandmother used to call it. Or Riley's grandmother used to say. Oh, yes, they're always, it's either this way or it's that way. I believe philosophers call that false dilemma. But there's lots of different colors on the spectrum. It's not just black and white. And so native writers are going to tell you this again and again. They're going to show you that there's mixtures. There's blue-eyed Indians. There's this fellow who's Quapaw Chickasaw or Cherokee Quapaw, I believe he said he is. Nice big belly like mine. He's through and through a real RLI, real live Indian. Anyway, I'm already talking too much. I went 12 minutes and 20 seconds. That's the main message I want to get to you. So if you see this kind of stuff up on a quiz, you'll know where to find it. And you'll know some of the stuff I highlighted, right? Or if it shows up on the final. Right? Right. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to get out of that. I'm going to remind you that you can find Geary Hobson here. There's some more Paula Gunn Allen. It's right under Pop Quiz B. And I was going to tell a story, but it's already 9 o'clock, and it's time for me to go home and eat because my stomach is still growling. Thank you so much. You guys have an awesome day. Talk to you later.